Good morning. So I want people to think about the question, how hard can it be? So just think about that again. How hard can it be? I'm excited to talk about Hiten Shah, the president and CEO of MES Inc. Full disclosure, Hiten is a client of mine, but we've become good friends and I've learned a lot from him. He has a very positive outlook on things and he often says, half joking, half serious, how hard can it be? So let me tell you a little bit about Hiten. He started his career as a plastics engineer and then he got into sales. And I think he realized, maybe I want to start my own company. How hard can it be? And he did it. And he was wildly successful. But then he realized a lot of his customers were having issues with their global supply chain. So he said, well, I'll start a global supply chain company. How hard can it be? Well, both of those were difficult. He's obviously speaking today because he's done incredibly well, but I think he looks at challenges and he sees them as opportunities. One of his motto, he believes that human beings have unlimited potential and he's living proof. I would definitely agree with that. I've really enjoyed working with him, though, with his positive outlook and always trying to treat people fairly. I think in this world we know a lot of people that don't do that, so I think when you find someone that does do that, they become the exception. Hiten credits a lot of his success to his wife of 27 years who couldn't be here today, Hina, and I've met her. She's a wonderful person. So when I asked Hiten to speak, he said, Joe, no problem. He goes, but I'm not a very good public speaker. I don't do it very often. So I would ask you, Hiten, how hard can it be? So with that, I give you Hiten Shah.
Yeah. You know, you're too naive to know otherwise. If you knew too much, you would not get anything done. Yeah, so I think having some ignorance about stuff really adds value. Just a quick facts. I can't add too much to what Bob eloquently put together as far as lessons learned from COVID. We all have learned the same thing. You know, this room is full of very accomplished people working from home, learning about ourselves. There is in week number 2, one of our team members shared a phrase with me, which is, your fear cannot be greater than your faith. And I think that drove my personal actions all the way through COVID. We're in many different countries, and we've been fortunate to be a part of different industries with lighting, industrial, agriculture, and automotive. We've been very lucky in terms of all the different awards that we've been getting over the last 10 years that we've been at this game. We're going to do 3 things. One is talk a little bit about COVID, and I would emulate again all the lessons that Bob had shared. We shared in those. We have a couple other extra things we would add. Then there are 2 specific things that I think one of the goals of this thing was to talk about suggestions and ideas. While I'm in absolutely no place to suggest anything, but there are a couple of different practices and perspectives that would really benefit, we feel. And then we'll share a little bit about international perspectives. We have people payroll everything in 9 different countries. So there are specific challenges to each one that you might find interesting as well. We'll go through the COVID thing. There is a lot of things we've written on it. There were a lot of questions all the way through COVID. I was on a lot of Zoom webinars and things like that to talk about it, because we found out about COVID on January 20th last year, almost 6 weeks before most of the people here did. And dealing with China before they went on a shutdown, we had to make a lot of changes, anticipating that they won't come back on time. So there are a lot of information on our blogs, but there's a couple of different things that we did that kind of put everything in focus. One was the disruption planning. So mobilizing teams as a priority with empathy, which was one of the most important things we did. We said, if you don't get everything done, it's fine. Do these 3 things as soon as you have time, as soon as you have an ability, as soon as you're able to get to it. So that's what we focused on. Over-communicate. Bob mentioned over-communication. That is, you just can't talk about it enough. We have a very strong system of metrics management, daily huddles, weekly blitzes, monthly metrics reviews, all of those. But this was like every day, twice a day, and so forth. We allowed our team to focus on very clear priorities, get a few things done that are of the utmost importance to our customers and to our team members here. culture of escalation. We've had that whole escalation. If something doesn't get answered in 48 hours, we expect those team members to escalate those to the managers, to their team members, all of that. I would highly encourage that practice in your businesses as well. And obviously, good balance sheet. Cash speaks higher than anything else. We had zero debt all the way through, so we were able to run through the entire COVID without taking any extra money except for the PPP. COVID, one of the things was to be safe, and then the clear operational goals were we want to be the first things that our suppliers will make. We want to be on the first containers that get on the boats, and we want to be on the first trucks that leave those countries. So whatever it took to do it, that's what the teams were empowered to do. And we paid double, triple money. We personally had people sitting at the factories to make sure those goods left at the time. But that's it. We said, that's it. If you get those out, don't matter what the cost is, negotiate what you need to do, and have complete, operating leverage on all of that. So, as a result of all this, on day number 3, we were able to open our China office. February 14th was when they started issuing permits, 15th actually Monday. We moved 6 containers on that week. What Ningbo Port did was to actually send about 700 buses, and they brought 4,500 employees from all over China back to the port between 10th and 15th February to start that port on time as planned. So that February 19th week, we had 6 different containers move through that. We had containers all the way through India. We never quite focused on sourcing in Europe and Mexico. We initiated all of those things right in the middle of COVID, doing virtual audits and all of that. We matched the goal of cost reductions in 2020 to match our cost increases, which were there. We finalized our operating philosophy, 0 layoffs. We actually spun off an IT company using a lot of our technology products, so that's launching in beta phase here this month and next month. We decided that we were going to do an acquisition on manufacturing companies. Bob brought up the fact that a lot of companies going through financial issues and stuff, and we've been fortunate to actually now have a pipeline of 2 and possibly 3 or 4 manufacturing additions. And one of the most important parts was to actually add 8 new customers, 5 Fortune 500 companies and 3 tier 1s. So, pretty good execution overall. We have a global footprint for the size of our company in terms of focus on the customers in Europe, in US and Mexico, and source quality suppliers all over the world. We talked, so we've been growing on this side here, but Meshworks is our newest endeavor that we are launching 3 different products over the next 90 days. And Metricsworks, we bought a lot of manufacturing equipment here last year and started to convert ourselves into a bit of a manufacturing to support and complement our supply chain activities as well. So we have a string of different acquisitions that we're targeting basically in the next 6 months to have a pretty strong manufacturing footprint domestically to support our customers. Keys to growth. So there are 2 things. I think, all of you guys have your own keys to success. There are 2 things I would share that I think maybe we do a little differently. So perspective on risk. We saw a lot of awards. We have several awards walls, and they all belong to the team. But I feel like the failure wall belongs to me. Okay, so that's my wall in my office, and every year we tabulate all of our, for lack of a better term, screw-ups, and basically tabulate them, add them, and we keep it in front, and I keep it in front to keep reminding myself and others that we are fallible, and but we are prone to making mistakes. Let's make sure we make them, take those small shots that we need to, but learn from them and grow from them. So, willing to fail is probably one of the biggest things that we can share with our team members, because if they're afraid of making decisions and you're going through COVID and the people don't know what to do and you're really empowering them to make a decision, they're really worried about doing something wrong. Okay, but setting a stage that you yourself are fallible, allows them to make those, gives them the runway to make those decisions as well. And everybody's probably read, Great by Choice book, Fire Bullets and Cannonballs. So the important question we ask ourselves, and I would encourage you guys to ask yourself, is what are you experimenting something in your business this month? Not next year, not next year, but this month, this week. Who in your team, which one of your team members is experimenting with something this week. And that could be, just a whole lot of new technology tools, whole lot of different things that you got going on. It has to be relevant to changing what you do in the future. It has to be new product, new process, new supplier, new factory, new location. All of that. There is so much new stuff going on, and these, millennials have come up with amazing tools to do our business well, more effective, more efficiently. We all have to be engaged in learning from it and trying to really experiment with it. Second and most important part is, who in my company can challenge me or stop me? Because, if you go into these foggy issues like COVID, where the paths are unknown, future is unknown, you need somebody that can actually stop you from making those rash mistakes or, making those bad judgments. So somebody that can come up to you and say, what were you thinking? Why are we trying to do it? And, our team members have stopped me from doing a couple of pretty bad bonehead, business mistakes, and I am thankful for that. I think, but that's really important. Those two things, risks, somebody can stop you from doing that, and what are you experimenting something this month? Innovation, I think I can assure you every single thing that we have done, and we are a 13-year-old business, that we've done in 2014, 15, 16, 17, maybe even 18, there are new ways to doing it. How you hire people, how you train people, how you manage people, how you manage benefits, how you manage your suppliers, how do you automate it? All of those tools there are new tools out there at fraction of a cost, that you gotta have somebody in your team engaged and looking and experimenting and trying to do stuff. The other big thing that I think, I'm not a gadget freak at all. In fact, I would just love my Mac and live with that for the rest of my life. But in order to set the stage, I try to, personally do something with the new apps and new gadgets and things. It's very, very uncomfortable. I hate it. But I think it shows the team that you're willing to try and, you're willing to flex and pushes them to try something new as well and brings those nerds out, which are, which can basically, come up with very simple ways to doing things. The last one, I think we talked about work from home and all of these things, but, how do you connect with millennials and Generation Z? This is a completely different workforce than most of us grew up in. I do see some millennials here, but 8 to 5 is not their thing. Going to dictionaries is not their thing. They grew up in a Google world where, quick 30-second answer. But, it doesn't make them inferior in anything at all. I mean, they're able to get to those answers very effectively. They're able to work, they're able to, manage their time effectively. They have, a lot of aspirations about, collaboration, about sustainability and all of those things. And you really have to engage and understand it. We can't be Neanderthals, completely ignoring those thoughts. Whether you agree with it or not, that is the workforce of the future. And, and your actions, do speak to them. And you need them in the business. You need them to join the business. You need them to contribute to the business, be a part of your team. So how do you connect with those millennials and Generation Z? Really, really important, I feel. The last thing I think we'll share is, we have team members in 9 countries. So we'll go through a little bit about, I'm sure you guys are all, well-read and understand all the countries and all the things that go on. But we'll share a few perspectives based on, what Joe and John and them had requested me to do. So China. This has been an anomaly, right? I mean, this is a very touchy subject to bring up. But it's an important supply, base for us. We started there about 13 years back. 5 years back, China was 90% of our purchases. Today it's about 50-55%. Challenging China was the right move, but doing it alone, was fairly poor execution. China now dominates the most important treaties, that are going on in the world. It has about 17 very important countries to the CPT, TPP, and RCEP agreements. I won't elaborate the long forms of that, but they sit as kingpin. We can't ignore them. The only way to address it is by basically building a coalition and doing that. And there are some pretty active moves. Yesterday I saw the thing that about 17 countries that have signed up to basically start having sanctions and so forth. But that's the way to bring to the table and make them, really work with the rest of the world. They're focused on increasing internal consumption, just like what we are. You know, we are 70% of our GDP is internal consumption. That's what they're trying. You know, they're about flip. They're 30% internal, and they're growing at a very rapid pace, expanding those middle classes and trying to get them the money to sustain their own economy. They are far ahead. You know, we think we are tech experts, but they are far ahead in the adoption of digital payments and electric vehicles. There was about 500,000 electric vehicles, maybe 700,000 in US last year, and China was at about 3 million. So they have, they're much more farther ahead. Social media is far greater than US and Europe. So, whatever perceptions we have about China as far as, third world country and so forth, it doesn't really exist. They are at the leading edge of almost everything we got going on. India, this has been, storied obviously through the COVID. It's really sad to see India go through this, and there are various reasons for it. But it is a net beneficiary of the tussles that we are having with China. And Vietnam and India are the biggest beneficiaries, we feel. And we are very heavily invested in India. We have an amazing team, a lot of suppliers, a lot of momentum. But infrastructure needs updated. There is, it'll take 45 days to bring a container in from India to, New York or Ohio, compared to maybe 27 days, 26 days, 23 days in China. So, and there are fewer options. One of the biggest reasons we feel is the limited government help and support. So you are really personally vested and highly using up all the collateral and everything else if you want to expand your business. So the scalability is a big issue. There's a big drive to grow the small and medium enterprises in India. We're actually, looking to do an IPO for our Indian business as well. Just to have more compliance and more things relevant to that. But there is the high cost of debt, minimum 8% or higher. So it's pretty, imposing to scale businesses there. Limited ocean freighters, there was, in terms of supply chain challenges, it's just, you might have 20 ships a week from specific location in China to specific location in US or Mexico. You might have 3 in India. And those 2 might have stopovers in Singapore or Colombo or something like that. So it's just harder. But it's an important part of our business development. USMCA causing labor cost increases, it is what it is. But this is a big issue, for Mexico, where the labor cost is increasing, and there's a growing unemployment as well in certain parts of Mexico. So it's a real interesting place to see Mexico. To me, it's akin to India in terms of the regulatory climate and the labor protection laws and so forth. These are all good, but you have to account for them. We're looking at an acquisition in Mexico, and at least 20%, they are 30% overstaffed. And they've staffed them because in COVID, they didn't know what they were doing. And now if you want to make any kind of cuts, it's, 1 month per year of service. So if they've been for 3 years, 4 years, it mounts up pretty fast. And they're increasing the cost in compliance filings, environmental submissions. So this, some of the filings may be $100, $200, 6, 7, 8 years back when we incorporated. Now it's $500,000, $2,000 to just have those certifications, which were pretty much free back then. So all the governments are basically definitely increasing their things. There's a general protectionism, right? This is not new news to this group here, but we started it. UK went through all the Brexit stuff, just general protectionism measures. Poland has it in droves. India decided to get out of TPP and all of those things. Germany is exhibiting some things as well, even though they're very, Euro-focused, but they are somewhat protectionist in how they do things. And what happens then is, the free flow of goods will be more challenging, more duties, more taxes, more impedance, longer lead times, more checks to even make certain changes. In my personal opinion, it's not been helpful. If you see, the deficits in UK and stuff has grown despite all of the things that we've done over the last 5 years. And, the industries which were intended to be protected because of the Section 232 and 301 tariffs has really not done their jobs. This is 4 years out. So, UST and a few other bankruptcies are kind of demonstrations of those actions not working out. International finances. Every government is looking for money. Every government has gap in financing, whether it's a country level, whether it's state level, province level, city level, all of them. Everybody is looking to say, okay, how can I fill my gaps, especially through COVID is even exaggerated. They have, politicians have unlimited, aspirations to spend money, and then, as a result of all of that, the business climate continues to get more and more challenging. Again, we're talking about just more fees and more penalties and more regulatory things to do. 2017 December, the guilty taxes came into being. Some of our CPA friends would understand those. It just made things a lot more complicated, and I think it's likely to get more complicated in a year or two more. Transfer pricing. I mean, Bob, you said you have businesses all over the place. I mean, this continues to get more and more demanding. It's not as simple as just doing business within things. There is way too many stipulations as far as how we set up the pricing. And I think one of the biggest things that we've dealt with is based on the benefits that we offer here with cash balance and pension plans and all those things, really restrictions around control and affiliate groups. So if we're all these new acquisitions, we are having to rethink exactly how we will do it, and what has worked for us in one line of business in the supply chain side won't work for the IT, won't work for manufacturing. So, it's just a lot more due diligence, a lot more considerations. Fortunately, we have really good advisors in Boudreaux's and First Financial Bank and Schneider Downs and Kegler Brown in them. So they keep us out of hot water and keep us straight. But, one of the big accomplishments coming out of COVID, a little bit extra time that we did have. Most of the time we were bloody moving containers to feed our customers because our customers never stopped. But the little extra time we did have, we did go through some pretty, discussions around what our values should be, what our operating philosophy should be. And, we had like a bunch of people that were been there for a while and would contribute to this. Cross-functional teams that made together. We started with about 17, and then we said 14, and I had a mandate. I said, you got to get down to 8. He said, why 8? I said, it's just like 8. It can fit in a frame pretty well. It looks good. It can have all different colors. So we just kept, it was actually more of an exercise to kind of dwindle down more thoughts. So for example, being resilient was one of the key values for them. And we're like, okay, I think we can include that with the failures, being cost conscious and cost reductions and continuous improvement was one of the big values. They were all broken up in different things. We said, okay, it's really cost consciousness is what we're looking for. Treat it as your own and keep driving costs down in whichever parts of the business you're looking at. There's always a conflict between individual goal and the team goals, right? You have somebody that wants to deliver fast, could compromise on quality. So how do you balance those? As basically we made a mandate that you got to support individual goals, team goals, and company goals. So whatever happens in the middle of it, we try to get to most optimized solution. Developing metric, this is one of the big issues. We kind of blew up our entire metrics management system. We used to have about 15, 20 goals. In 2020 and 2021, we actually ended up with 246 goals. We decided to populate every single thing that all of our team members manage, basically. So it was pretty cumbersome to do that, but actually we basically brought it up. Some metrics are very similar, but they measure it differently. They call it differently. We said, okay, everything that you're measuring, we're going to populate it. So we ended up with 246 goals in our popular system. And now we actually globally, they're like, hey, this is how India is measuring it. We're going to measure it this way too. So we're now having some usage of everything else. We do feel very, very strongly about measuring progress. That's the only way you can keep yourself accountable. And then I think the last thing is, and this was more, we probably contribute to about 25 charities globally, whichever our team members are supporting, whether it's money, whether it's time, whether it's just, attention, whether it's resources like computers, this and that. So we have an incredibly engaged team everywhere. And for Poland and India and Mexico and China, we have a mandate. They have to do at least 2 events a year. So they do go out to nursing homes and adult homes and whatever else to do that. But again, we gotta contribute, as Bob was mentioning about making money to give money and all that. I think we want to be good citizens. We want to contribute effectively in all way possible. So that's really all about us, actually. So I would look forward to hooking up with you guys on LinkedIn and things like that. I guess, Bob, yeah, so that's about it. Thank you.
As with Bob, time for 2 or 3 questions.
Hi, Josh.
The word MES came from.
Yeah, so I started this business as with aspirations to have step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. So the initially business was incorporated when I left my job in 2001 as step 1. And then I would tell people that and like, what the heck does that mean? And I didn't have a product or anything like that. So marketing and engineering solutions is what it started with. And so since then, we have broken up into Mesh for all the software brands, Metrics for all of the manufacturing. And our businesses are called Metrics Hong Kong, Ningbo Metrics, Bombay Metrics, Metrics Mexico, Metrics Vietnam, so forth. So yeah, we kind of, MES, we actually, and that also changed coincidentally when we tried to register MES in China. They said MES doesn't mean anything, so you can't really have that name. So we're like, okay, what do we do now? So we had like 2 days to figure out how to come up with a name, and we kind of blew the MES to Metrics because we were always focused on metrics and stuff. So started using Metrics then, and then Mesh was an internal competition. When we had a business portal that was just doing requests for quotes, we blew that up to start doing customer quotes and a few other things. Like RFQ portal doesn't make sense, what do we call it? So we had a name competition with a $100 Speedway card, and somebody came up with Mesh. So it's been Mesh now, and all the new software is being launched with Mesh name as well. So. But marketing and engineering solutions was the name.
Yeah, Bob.
Hi, Bob.
Tell me a little bit more about your decision and your reason for focusing on some domestic manufacturing capabilities.
Yeah.
You haven't had it today, correct?
No. Yeah, this is completely new. So, we just wrote a white paper on near sourcing. We think it's baloney because you can't just say, okay, I'm going to make everything in Ohio. It's not possible. You can't be close to the customers. You can't be close to suppliers. You're not using the capacity and the capital wisely. But there is, what has happened is, most of the industries has gone from high, large volume things to, high mixed, low volume. So, Honda is one of our newest customers. The Honda CR-V used to be 180,000 vehicles. They would have, engine brackets that are 180,000. They'd have this that are 180,000. No longer, they have 3 different transmissions. Now they're going to 5 transmissions. They are going from 2 to 3 engines. They have a hybrid. They have a full electric. They have a partial electric, all of that stuff. So as a result, that bracket design is now 7 different configurations. So, the local manufacturing base that Honda Kairetsu has established, they don't want to make 20,000 and 30,000. They're not set up for it. They're set up for very high volume. And there is an explosion in number of SKUs and stuff relevant to that. So as a result, there is merit in doing some domestic things. We also have several components that you might bring, this specific mic here, but you might add a silver, you might have a chrome plated, you might have a red, all of that stuff just on top. So you might bring one component here, and you might make all these stuff, additional things here to add it based on the orders and reducing the lead time. So we think adding domestic manufacturing, and especially the valuation that we can get right now at just basically asset prices, is pretty valuable. And we know what a good factories look like. We always tell, these acquisition companies that we come through, like, we know what a good factory looks like. We've never run one. So, but we're going to turn you into one. So I think this is something new, and we're really happy to kind of embark on this path as a support for our critical customers. They are the ones driving this. This is not some aspiration that we have come up with. Our customers, hey, can you do this domestically? You can manage all the rest of it from there, type of thing. So, yeah.
Can you talk about how you were able to expand globally to so many locations so quickly
Yeah. How hard can it be? Really, you just have to be dumb not to ask. You can't be intelligent about it, because if you just have to figure out, okay, my customer needs it. I'm able to find good suppliers in Vietnam. What am I going to do? I think the best part, though, we did do is to have good legal and accounting counsels everywhere. We do spend that money in making sure that we do that. So when we wanted to go in Vietnam, we're like, okay, as soon as we go from more than one person, we incorporate. That's the rule. We can't have more than, we can't have contract people everywhere. So we've hired really good accounting firms, we follow their advice and go through it. And we're used to hiring using Skype in the past and Teams and all that stuff. And if I can look people in the eye, I have a pretty good assurance that I can trust them, you know. So really having good advisors to start these companies and then trusting our own instincts of, you know, finding people through recruiting services. But we do interviews. The first few people are almost hired by me personally, you know, and it could be 6, 7, 8 candidates for a given position to start those countries. Because getting those country managers is really one of the most critical things we do. You know, the rest of it is really up to them. They hire estimators, they hire sourcing guys, they hire quality engineers, and those type of things. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.